This is the Chatter Squadron Weekly News Roundup, the best source for Star Wars news in the galaxy. Chewie, get the holonet up and running again. We don't want to miss the show.
Huh. Did you know that BD-1 took over 2 years to design? And he's based off of the personalities of both Snoopy and Woodstock?
Calhoun. Woodstock is a music festival. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Chatter Squadron, your weekly dose of Star Wars fun and positivity. My name is Tyler Bucks.
And I'm Mike Calhoun, and you're listening or watching the Weekly News Roundup, where we round up the news. See, I have to say it now because you used to say it, and I was like, I thought it was silly, and I was like, you already said news roundup. They know you're rounding up the news, and you're just saying it again. Well, but I'm saying
we have to reiterate it because we do have a pen that we take news by a lead, get it into the pen, close the door.
We have those. Yeah, we've got those dogs that round up the news.
Exactly.
And the news chasing dogs.
Some of the news we're going to be touching on today that the dogs have already gotten into the pen. Of course, this week in Star Wars history, we're going to jump straight off with that. But also Jedi Fallen Order.
I was just reading about it.
Yes,
to you.
I know.
I was telling you all the fun info.
And as you were telling me all about it, I was punching it all in.
That's how we work, everyone. No. Then we're going to be talking about Diego Luna because he's back, and we knew that he was coming back for his show, which remains untitled, but it's going to be a prequel to Rogue One, obviously, starring his character, and he's got some funny things to say about his preparation. We're
going to go to a questions thread where I ask people, what would you like to see in the Cassian show? And then after I made it and posted it, looking at it, I'm like, this is not going to be called The Cassian Show, but it looks like a put down like that.
Oh, because you have to you have to uppercase.
Yeah. What do
you should have put it in quotes too, or italics. The Cassian Show, or the Andor Show,
the Andors, and it's going to be him and his family, and it's going to be happy-go-lucky and silly, and then the whole series ends with him being brutally ripped from his family. It's all going to be like TV, like
Is Diego Luna going to be playing the little boy version as well? That's why they're having such issues with the costuming.
Or it's like How I Met Your Mother, and it's Cassian and K2 in like the cockpit flying to places, and then he just tells him from his life,
telling stories. Yes. Wait, so it's K2 that's learning these
K2
things.
is the one who's learning it. Exactly. And Diego Luna, awesome. Especially talking about his preparation, that's why he has to play a young version, even younger. So we'll get to that.
Even younger.
And then your favorite person in the world. Just jump to that one.
I was going to say, you haven't gotten to my favorite person in the world yet, but we'll be talking about the Chosen One prophecy, as that has been revealed by Claudia Gray's book, Master and Apprentice.
It's been revealed, and I'm not sure why we haven't, the internet hasn't gone a storm with it yet.
A little bit on Twitter, a little bit of discussion. Some people made some polls like, what do you think of it? Does it matter? Right. Is it not that important? Has it already been fulfilled? Has it yet to be? And I was like, no one knows.
We'll jump to it in a bit. But no, your favorite person, Thrawn, of course.
Yes, Thrawn. Admiral Thrawn. Grand Admiral Thrawn.
And Grand Admiral Thrawn, at the end of this episode, may be reading parts of his book for us live and in person. But before we jump into the episode, Patreon. Today is July 2nd, and July 4th, we are launching our Patreon, and you can become a supporter of us for only $1 a month.
Did you just say Patreon? A couple times?
Yeah, I've said it at least 3 times.
You snuck it in.
Yeah?
Yeah, you snuck it in. I was like, this is a big announcement. I mean, granted, we made the announcement last week.
Right.
But, continuing on to it, and this is the launch week.
You said Patreon, right?
Patreon?
Yeah, Patreon.
We talk about Patreon?
Exactly.
The big P?
The big P, as we've called it.
That big old P. Couple of peas in a pod, as we are.
You can
Just talking about that big P.
You can support these two Ps by giving us $1 a month, and you become an ensign. You get a monthly Q&A with us, access to our Patreon thread, that coveted Patreon thread.
You've got to get in that Patreon thread
Lined in gold.
Sometimes we'll put coordinates to Leprechaun Gold inside the threads. And other times we just give helpful tips and tricks on how to get your lawnmower started.
And what else do people get even at the $1 amount?
They'll be getting
I'm sorry to everybody
a
who's
seat
listening.
on the tiny chair of tiny victories.
If you become a patron, you have the chance to be put on this monstrosity.
This is my favorite thing.
This amazing reward.
Look at this.
And you can be
The Empire has made, with its finest engineers,
Yes.
the most cutting edge of TIE fighter you have ever seen with your own eyes.
This is the pinnacle of Imperial tech right here in the middle of our studio.
And
here.
if you're a Patreon pilot, whether you're at the ensign level, captain level, or commodore level, you can find yourself on that tiny chair of tiny victories. You just hit us up with ideas for shows, or you answer our polling that we post in the Patreon, or you just engage with us in the discussion, or you have a really good Q&A with us.
Yep.
You can find yourself in the tiny chair of tiny victories, highlighted fan of the week.
And I think you can be highlighted multiple times.
And for multiple weeks.
How engaged you are in the community. And number 5, you mentioned Captain. You get everything in Tier 1, plus a pre-show for every episode. You can hear our pre-show talk that we had today talking about British people, but you've just kind of made them sound like Irish.
I did. Well, I've been reading American Gods.
Okay.
And, in that book, there is a leprechaun character, and he has a faint Irish accent because he's been in the U.S. for so long. And it was. I think that's just what I defaulted to. I was just like, I'm slipping into this mad sweetie.
And then at $10, you can become a Commodore in the Chatter Squadron. Everything
Commodore,
in
as
tier,
is soon to become.
everything in Tier 1 and 2, plus early access to all of our content. So you'll be getting links to things, and you can view them first. And who knows, maybe if you hit that $10 amount, maybe you'll kick anybody off of the tiny chair.
Yeah, we'll just evict them. Actually, I encourage you to become a Commodore simply because I like saying Commodore.
You know, that's a great incentive.
Yeah, that's another incentive. You get to hear me delightfully call you Commodore.
You can pay us $10 a month just to help us say the word Commodore
Just to
more
have,
often.
yeah, so we can have fun.
But you know what else is fun?
What?
This week
In Star Wars history, brought to you by the Battlefront. I thought you were going to finish it for me, but he didn't.
June 27th, 1966.
Hey, June 1966, the 27th of the 6th month. Keep going.
Director J.J. Abrams, I'm so scared, who's also directing The Rise of Skywalker, is
You know that little ditty?
that little guy, that little ditty.
I don't think he's done anything before.
No, or since.
No, he won't. He'll die with this project.
Oh my gosh.
No!
You heard it here first, folks.
All right, anyway.
We talk about how you can hear theories on this show if you tune in every week. Well, that's a big theory I haven't heard many people say. JJ's going to go down with the ship.
He has to. It's part of the gypsy spell that was put on him as a young boy.
Did I do that to him?
Did you
With
do that?
my gypsy
With your gypsy
heritage?
magic? Yeah, it was your people. They did it. They did it to JJ. Way to go.
Oh, hey, thank you so much.
Wait, what?
Would you like to cover my least favorite character?
Oh, absolutely. June 28th, 1978.
Hey, June 28th. See, it's...
An all-white Boba Fett is shot in an initial screen test at the Lucasfilm headquarters in Marin County with The Empire Strikes Back assistant editor Dwayne Dunham donning the armor while sound engineer Ben Burt discusses the costume's many features.
I wish it's.
I like Ben Burt is like doing double duty. He's just like, well, I took a break from making a bunch of innovative sounds for the next century to describe this white armor to you in this little mini doc.
I'm sorry. I'm just laughing at what this could have turned into. An all-white Boba Fett is shot fatally because
all-white Boba Fett has been shot.
They decided not to go with that character design.
Because Tyler Bucks went back in time to save the Return of the Jedi.
He immediately was replaced with a colorized version of Boba Fett. They just shoot him, drag him behind, and then a new guy walks out.
They wheel in a new guy after shooting him.
I'm sorry.
June 29th, 1978, an all-white Boba Fett was shot in a firing squad and buried in an unmarked grave. That's not true.
His daughter was later found on Jakku.
Wait, what?
July 1st, 1935, actor David Prowse, Darth Vader from the original trilogy, is born. We kind of know
Do you
this.
think he was born that tall?
Yeah, actually. That's on here as well. He was born that tall.
Parentheses, he was born this tall.
But for some people that might not know, George Lucas hates David Prowse.
What?
I don't know the exact. I should have looked
just
into
had
it more,
some
but
sort
he
of-
just doesn't like the guy. That's
All
why
right.
he doesn't really show up to conventions or really much, because he was kind of like just excommunicated.
That's such a shame.
I don't know.
What a weird, like, little factoid.
Right.
In this huge, universal, globally known franchise.
Yeah.
And the guy who played the titular character whose iconic face is on everything. And he's like, I don't really want anything to do with it.
Maybe he brought like some bad rigatoni to a potluck or something. That
He
gets
was
you-
in charge of the craft services.
That gets
and
you excommunicated in a lot of functions. Trust me.
I'm trying to think of like how he could have specifically made George mad.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I honestly have no idea.
Right.
What were you
Who
pointing
knows?
at?
The final one.
The final one.
Yeah.
Oh, July 3rd, 1993. Podcaster, page runner, and all-around okay guy, Tyler Bucks is born.
Oh my gosh.
Was he created by the Force? Who knows?
I can't believe Star Wars put that out.
I know it was only in the app. You know, I
Yeah.
had to get the app,
Yeah.
and I had to scroll, and I was like, oh, a little factoid for July 3rd. Oh, goodness me.
Well, I guess we just got to move on.
It's just
from that
part
one.
of history now.
Yeah. Oh,
Well,
okay.
let's get to our first story
More
here.
details about Jedi Fallen Order. Not much can be more exciting than my birthday tomorrow. But
Nor America's birth the day after.
right, and the day after something else is coming out, our first sketch.
Oh, we didn't talk about that, did we?
Yeah. Well,
beginning
hey,
of the
July
show.
4th, our first sketch is coming out.
You better be watching.
Yeah.
That's all I have
What
to
else
say.
are you doing with your eyeballs throughout the day?
Poking them out.
Look down from the parade for a second and just check out the video.
Yeah. If there's anything that's going on in today's society, it's not enough phones.
Exactly.
Not nearly enough screen time.
But July 4th, join us on our quest to bring Star Wars to people when they least expect it.
All right, let's talk about Jedi Fallen Order.
I'm dying to.
You were privileged enough to put your eyes in the position of the new gameplay video.
Oh, yeah?
And I did not.
For a lot of people that don't know, they released that long gameplay, which was
Yep.
13 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But then they released a 23-minute long. I believe it was 23 minutes.
Let me do my math real quick. That's about 10 more minutes.
I know. But they released a longer version of it, and there was just more dialogue. The story was more flushed out.
Yeah.
You got to see
Flushed
him.
out like a toilet.
Yeah, well, it started in the water
You're
with,
right.
with him and his droid.
Right into the pipes.
And of course, for people that might not know, I just want to set Jedi Fallen Order is a new Star Wars game coming out soon, and there's a lot of content being released about it. But you get the entire story from him in the water, climbing the thing, how he's climbing it, how he gets into the AT, how he takes it over, how he drives it
That's
when
cool.
Saw comes in, how he takes down, so you
Because I
follow
saw
that
all
whole
these
story.
screenshots, and
Exactly.
then I read about it as I was holding up this latest Game Informer.
Not sponsored. We keep
Not at all. It's just a beautiful cover. Maybe I'll just hold up the back.
Oh, perfect. Now no one will know that it's a Game Informer. Oh gosh, I keep saying it.
Stop saying Game Informer.
So basically, they had a interview with Stig Asmussen, and you know what might be more fun to say than Commodore? Stig Asmussen.
It is fun, but it's easy to stumble upon.
Right.
So I read in this review that Cal, the main character, meets up with a certain other Jedi Knight named Sarah. And you said in the gameplay you actually got to see what she's like.
Right, and you were kind of talking about when you were reading that she is more reconnaissance and she doesn't really help you on the battlefield.
Yeah.
I tend to kind of think that might be misinformation, that she might appear like once or twice.
Sure.
Because a new Jedi character and her just being reconnaissance, I don't know. It would be a cool way to build up her coming in and saving or whatever. But in the full gameplay, you do see her interact with people, and basically what she says is like the most NPC thing is just like, here's what's going on here. You go do it. I'll stay with the ship. And then they just stand there, and then you can like walk around them.
She's got to work on her calibrations.
Right. I need to calibrate something. What is it? Something.
Maybe another time. I've got to work on my calibrations. I can. That's fine. What I was reading in this cover story was really encouraging. Mm-hmm. They obviously played through more than even we saw in the video.
Mm-hmm.
They went into Respawn and talked to Stig in person.
Yeah.
And they obviously saw more of Kashyyyk, which is very cool. So, what was the main feature that you're excited about?
Well, let me start off with something that I just want to voice my opinion on that a lot of people are getting unexcited for, which is a word. It's not a word. They say here, we asked Asmussen about lightsaber limb dismemberment, and he said, obviously, we don't want this game to be mature rated. So there might be some of that, but it would not be on human characters. We're still working that out. So basically just kind of, he goes through creatures, robots. We saw big spiders.
Yeah.
But that's kind of something that has been coming out lately that, Disney said to tone it down. I don't know how.
Is that what people are phrasing it as? That's a negative light.
Apparently that's what it kind of is coming from. But I mean, I don't know. I would have to play the game or see a lot more of the game to really take a bit of it does kind of subtract from the game that this isn't happening. But right now, I mean, we've seen literally 23 minutes.
Right.
So to understand if it takes you out of it, that you're not slicing limbs off, which I've never been a big fan of just super gore. But
and sometimes it looks silly. I mean, there are games in the past that have, dismemberment, and sometimes it doesn't even look great. It's more funny.
Right,
you can have weird bugs that happen with that.
I was about to say, I feel like you might be going through half a Kashyyyk with an arm glitch to your leg.
Sure. Or exactly. Which can be funny, but that'll take you out of the game. My philosophy on this is that it's very simple. Do you want the game to be mature rated or not?
Right.
Some people do. Obviously, the creators don't.
Yeah.
And the creators want to appeal to more people. I'm fine with that. Totally cool.
Here's some interesting tidbits as well. A lot of people, when they saw Cal freezing people, much like Kylo Ren, he must be very super powerful. Very super powerful. Wow, my vocabulary
very super powerful.
Very super powerful. Anyway.
We're the most powerful Jedi.
It's very super, very powerful. The most powerful super. Goodness. It's hot in here today.
It's so warm.
It's so
we might
hot.
have a glistening glow.
It's called Force Slow in this game. It's not freeze.
You don't say.
If you watch, I do say. If you watch the video closer, they are slowly moving. And in the full gameplay, there's a moment where like this big mill thing is spinning, and he does it, and it's still slowly
moving,
spinning.
yeah.
So
I did notice that.
so that's kind of a tell that, he's not incredibly powerful, because Kylo's able to stop things going super fast, stop it in its tracks, and
Without even looking.
even forget about that he's even doing it.
Yeah.
So, and still, that's an untraveled force ability. We don't really know how
Sure.
much.
And I also don't have a problem with it because, look, we're trying to make new things for a new audience and the current audience. So we got to see some new stuff.
Something that I got excited about was that Rogue One and Rebels was the main points of inspiration in terms of Fallen Order's general art. So, of course, Rogue One and the show Rebels take place within the same kind of, between 3 and 4 time window. So it only makes sense for them to pool things.
Yeah.
And especially they have Inquisitors in this.
Yeah.
So they would have had to, like, how does this Inquisitor look in as much in real life as we possibly can? Because this is the first time we're seeing an Inquisitor closest to real life that we've seen in a media before.
Yeah.
Something that got me excited was that you can sheath and unsheath your lightsaber using the D-pad. This is the thing. Like playing games back in the day, and even now, I'm still trying to finish KOTOR. We've been doing this show for almost 2 years,
Yeah.
and I was talking about how I was playing KOTOR back then.
You were heavy into KOTOR when
Yeah.
we were talking about it.
Now I'm just trying to get through it because it's getting harder, and it's on my iPad. So the hardness of controlling on my iPad and the harder difficulty is just making it like, just please cut this person instead. But what I'm getting at is, it takes me out. We're talking about taking you out of it. It takes me out of it when a Jedi or Sith or whatever is walking around just with their lightsaber.
Oh,
you know what
just
I mean?
out. Yeah.
Hey, Saw, how are you? You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like,
yeah.
that's always been something that I wanted. I have a lightsaber right here. That's always been something I wanted to do as a kid, was just bust out a lightsaber. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So literally that small of a thing that I might just, the first thing I do is just sit there with Cal and go.
One thing that I am happy for when I did read about this was, first of all, that you could do it.
Yeah.
And second of all, that you're in these kind of recluse areas, usually by yourself, unless you're with enemies.
Yeah.
I think that will make it less awkward too, because
Yeah.
you won't have as many opportunities where you're like walking through a bazaar,
Right.
And you just and if you are doing that, I presume that people around you be like, "What the heck?
Exactly.
Who is this guy?"
Hey,
because-
stop that.
Yeah,
I'm contacting the authorities.
I personally loved in The Witcher sheathing and unsheathing my swords, because you have
Yeah.
two swords in The Witcher. You've got a silver sword for monsters and a steel sword for humans.
Okay.
And you could do it on your horse. You could just be like galloping and then just shing, and just like slice someone's head off as you're going by, and then put it back in.
Yeah.
Very cool stuff. But you could also be just walking around town, unsheathe your sword, and then like market people would be like, "Ooh, who's this
Yeah.
man?"
Yeah.
So I liked doing that. I just liked going around.
I had a quick question.
Sure.
Was the silver sword, it just did nothing to humans? Because he had one for humans and one for monsters.
You could use the silver. So both swords had a what is it? Did you hit your face with that
I
thing?
hit my tooth
For
with
the
microphone.
listeners only, Tyler just smacked his tooth with the microphone.
You know what? Let's just
That's
move on.
Yeah, it's a really, really tight target there.
Yes, it was impossible even for a computer, some might say. BD1's light will change colors and pulsate to alert you of certain things. It's sort of like, speaking of swords, it's sort of like Bilbo's sword, his blue sword.
It glows blue and orcs are close.
When he's feeling good about things and he is happy, he's green, as Musin says. It's also an extra indicator for danger or if your health is low when it turns red.
I immediately drew the connection to Dead Space. Did you
Yep,
ever play
yep.
the game Dead Space? I was
Yeah.
like, you're not going to have to explain this to anyone.
Exactly.
Everyone will get it.
Yep.
We've seen these mechanics before, and we're cool with it.
And you don't need a HUD system because of that,
Nope.
because it's this visual thing that's on your character's back most of
Yep.
the time, is this thing giving you different signals. Let's see. What else did I want to say about this? Oh, this is big. Game Informer, can you change the lightsaber colors? Can you make it red?
I was disappointed that they even asked this question. I know it's the question that some readers are going to want to know, but I don't want a red lightsaber for this character.
Well, this is the thing. I believe he answers this for the first part and then responds to the other part. He says, yes, you will be able to change the color, though there are colors Lucasfilm won't let us touch.
Which is great for a non-yes or no answer to that question. It was very, very vague.
Right.
I'm hoping that it turns out that you can't make it red. Or, you know what? We know so little about the story that I don't want them to tell me anything about it.
Right.
You know, maybe it becomes red because maybe at some point you have to impersonate the Inquisitor. I don't know. Or the sister.
Right.
I'm eyebrow raising for the listeners.
This is an interesting tidbit about the demo we got to see, which is really cool that they were able to speak about this, because a lot of people were saying it seems like this is so much on a rail. But he has this to say about the little teaser that they showed off at E3. The E3 demo is definitely a heavier scripted area that we're playing through there that has more storytelling that is going on. It's what I call gold standard storytelling, but we're always going to be telling story, even when it's just Cal and BD off on their own, whether it's a conversation between the two. And then he goes on to say, sometimes when you go to a planet for the first time, we try to do a little bit of setup with it, and you get a custom entrance scene in your ship that tells you a little about the lore and what to be aware of, and what the objective of this location is. But once things loosen up, you have more choice of where you want to go and when you want to go there. The storytelling takes a little bit of a back seat. I wouldn't want it any other way. I would, you know what I mean? I don't want to just go to a planet over and over again and it not to feel special or feel meaningful when I go there. Like, oh, I have to go here. Like you kind of get a setup, you get an entrance, you get a way to kind of move on. And it almost makes me think that it's that entrance will change as you go through the game. You know, you do something on Kashyyyk and then you go to Utapau or something. And it's like, okay, you guys help the Wookiees and blah, blah, blah. And then you go do something else and you come back to Utapau and it's like, oh, you guys help, you know, and it changes as time goes on as opposed to just, Kashyyyk. I wonder if they have trees. And then you get out. They have trees. And that's it. You know, I think it will evolve because that's what they've talked about.
Well, we've seen revisiting areas in games before, and we know that a good game will show time passing in those areas. Specifically, I'm thinking of a game when they said that they want some sort of intro or an entrance scene for when you enter the planet. I knew that I had thought of a game that had done that mechanic before, and they mentioned it in the Game Informer article, which is Metroid Prime.
Yeah.
Metroid Prime, each time you would enter a new area, it would like do these sweeping camera moves of all of its features. And many times it was cluing you in on the different power-ups you could get. Even if they were too hard to get at the moment, they were cluing you in on the area, encouraging you to explore it.
Right.
In this game, I'm going to read a quote from it. They also have a similar philosophy. We want to trust the player to find their own way and discover the world without breadcrumbing them along, says Jeff Magers, lead level designer. We'll mark an objective on their map that is well off into the distance in the fog of war, and the player has to figure out how to discover and explore toward that ultimate goal. We haven't gotten to this yet, but your map is not a constant. Your map is toggled with BD1, and it displays in real life like you would in the Star Wars universe. You'd be like, ooh, I'm holding something for the listener, and it just pops up a little map. But in this case, BD like puts it on the ground. And you were telling me that if you were to do that with enemies around, they'll immediately recognize it and they'll attack you. I love that.
You know what that reminds me of as well?
What?
Dead Space.
You're right.
You have to do something in your inventory. It doesn't pause the game.
Nope.
you got to get the heck out of there.
Yep.
I feel like they're pulling from a lot of different things. And this
kind of positive things. And this is exactly what we were hoping. When we were theorizing, what's this game going to be like? What are they going to add? What kind of elements? In fact, they're pulling things from games that we hadn't anticipated or listed or predicted.
This is something, and you've always been more connected to games than I, but wasn't there like a Lord of the Rings game or some type of medieval game where if an enemy killed you and then you came back to life, that same enemy would be stronger, and you would then kill, you would have to kill them, and they would remember you or whatever.
That's Shadow of Middle Earth?
Yeah.
Shadow of Middle Earth, I want to say, but...
This is something I wanted to bring up was if you track down the enemy that killed you and return the favor, you will recover your lost XP and get both a health boost and a boost to your Jedi powers meter. It's a place to be, it's in place to be used as a potential comeback mechanic and encourage you to approach the same combat encounters in different ways. If the big bad in one area killed you previously, you might want to focus on the enemy instead of the weaker ones flanking it, like you did on your first run.
That's also reminiscent to World of Warcraft, where you would have to go find your body, and then you would get your XP back. Or what's another game that you can get your XP back?
Minecraft.
Oh, yeah, Minecraft. Yes, you go back. Yeah, exactly. All your items are there and stuff. I like that. I think it's a rewarding game mechanic that we've discovered through a society making games, and I encourage it. I think it's a good game mechanic. I'm excited for this game, man. I'm so pumped.
You know what else I'm excited about?
I don't know. Disney Plus. That's a big thing.
The Cassian Show.
It's the Cassian Andor Show,
starring
Cassian Andor, Dick Van Dyke,
Dick Van Dyke,
Mary Tyler Moore,
Dick Van Dyke as K2SO,
and Mary Tyler Moore as Cassian Andor. As what you say is Jyn Erso. No, she's gonna play the star.
So, in a recent interview with Diego Luna, I took this from our good friends at Star Wars Underworld. They are great. He was asked about the new Cassian series, which in his response, you can tell he can't say anything about this. You know what I mean? He can't really give any details. He just kind of has to laugh it off, which is what he does often. But yeah, he was asked about, how it is working on this so far. Did you want to read what he says?
He says, the problem is that I have to look younger because it's a prequel. So with a lot of exercise, organic lettuce, they keep me as young and as healthy as I can be. I was like, you know what? That organic lettuce can do wonders for you.
Diego Luna is so charming.
Yes.
He's the best. But I love that because we were saying at the beginning, which is, we weren't joking. We think it might be him as a child and Diego Luna playing him as a child. Think about that. I have to
put his knees in his shoes.
I mean, look at this. The problem is that I have to look younger. I mean, come on, guys. It's spelled out there in front of us.
It's a direct quote.
Right. I mean, if you want to not believe it, you're just not believing facts. I mean, that's all I have to say. But there's still no official word on if he's going to be touching Jabba's skin and feeling its texture.
I was hoping that would be the follow-up question from that journalist.
The question that I posed to people was, what would you like to see in the Cassian Show? And by the way, if you want...
Did anyone say Cassian Andor? Ban them. I'm kidding.
Oh, you know who did?
Was it Rick?
No, we're going to read him. But Craig T. Bryant says, I want to see Cassian.
Oh, Craig! I knew it, Craig. I knew it was going to be you. I knew it. See, I misspoke and said it was going to be Rick, but Rick's too nice.
But if you want to be a part of this conversation, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, any of our social medias. But like we said before, Patreon. We're going to start incorporating these question threads into Patreon and reading probably those comments first on the show.
And Craig, I'm not putting you on the tiny chair.
Oh, my gosh.
He might.
Tyler
might do
it. We have to battle each other, basically. So Craig T. Bryant says, I want to see Cassian.
Thanks, Craig.
Rick Villanueva, he says, me as a face and or / body double.
Absolutely. You know what, Rick? You were so distraught by how tall we were. That makes me think that you could really steal the show by sneaking in and saying, I'm a younger Diego Luna. Look at me, this little version of him. And they'll be like, what are you talking about?
What are you talking about,
Diego?
Rick? They know Diego. Oh, yeah. What are you talking about, Diego? You were supposed to be here 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, you're supposed to be here 10 minutes ago. And why are you already in costume?
I remember at Celebration, Rick was so distraught of how many people thought he was doing a
Cassian
He's like, I'm just
a rebel guy. No, he wasn't even a rebel guy. He was like, these are just cargo pants.
He said I'm just Mexican.
No, I'm just Mexican, guys. Oh, man.
This is a two-parter here. So Elliot Miller says, I want to see Cassian's origins and how he struggled rationalizing having done some ugly things for the cause, which we saw, like that was his first
introduction.
Thank
His
you.
introductory scene was him slaying a man in cold blood.
In Rogue One, and I think a lot of people...
sacrifices must be made.
Oh, my goodness.
Anyway.
We'll get to you, Thrawn.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people were probably interested in seeing more of that. And then
More death.
Brett from the Skywalk podcast, which I just want to give them a quick plug because they plugged us so nicely.
Hey, thanks, guys.
They're on a little bit of a break, but they're coming back, I think, in a month or so. And they were nice enough on their last episode to say, while you guys wait for us to come back, you should go listen to Chatter Squadron. So welcome, Skywalk listeners.
That's Skywalk, W-O-K.
Yes,
like we're in the kitchen.
The thing you cook in. Brett, he says what he said to Elliot Miller. And maybe he's rationalizing working with a bounty hunter or two. So Zuckuss, Forlom, anyone who've gone a little further than the good guys would have to get the job done. I think that would be because in The Mandalorian, he's going to be this like rogue gunfighter. You know what I mean? And we might not get a lot of those bounty hunters or a lot of those characters that we would have. We're more accustomed to, even like Dengar, that were more in place when Cassian was knocking around. So while The Mandalorian will give us new characters and probably a couple old, I think you could get Cassian.
You think we'll have more familiar characters in this series and more new characters in The Mandalorian.
Right, and I think...
That's interesting.
I think, because that's the thing, they're going to have to play these two off each other.
Sure.
They're really going to have to. They're going to have to say, okay, these are both kind of... Because a lot of people are saying they want it to be gritty. I think The Mandalorian's going to be gritty.
Right.
So they do kind of have to sit down and look at it. It's been, this is a little similar. What can we do to make it different? And I think that's one of the ways. The Mandalorian being more new and much like Rogue One was, playing off of the history of Star Wars and the characters that you know.
I'm only a little worried isn't the right word, but when it comes to the plot lines that they'll need to focus on for a live action, clearly for young adults, television show, how they're going to engage us every single week.
Right.
Is it going to be a short series? We know that, or we don't know, but we can almost guess that The Mandalorian is going to be a shorter number of episodes type of season. In my opinion, it's just, it seems what they're gearing up for. I don't think it'll be like a 23 episode season kind of thing. I'm wondering if we'll feel like we saw too many familiar things in the Cassian Andor series.
Maybe.
I didn't feel that way with Rogue One, and I also didn't have that fear going into it.
Right.
I was actually very pleased when they did things like include old footage, match people's like mustaches and stuff.
Yeah.
I loved that. So I'll probably love it here too, but I'm worried that some people might think it's stagnant. I don't want to curse it with that, but
I think the biggest thing that people are worried about going into it, I wouldn't say worried about, but what they want the most and might feel let down if they don't get it, like Matthew Starkey, Andrew Williams, and Rizky Ariandi, they all were talking about how they want to see that crueler side, that more gritty side, that dirty side of the rebellion and the Empire. You know what I mean?
You're right, because you're fighting for your lives.
That ground level worker ant we've seen the
Grandiose stuff.
exactly, where people are sitting in a room saying we destroyed the council or whatever, and it's like, what does that even mean? But what are the ramifications of taking down governments and
Sure.
things? So I think if anything was to show, like we were saying, what we've known, the rebellion and the empire in a more real life, minute detail
Sure.
thing, it would be this. And who knows, maybe we do see Cassian connections with his family and how he loses ties with them, and that can really show why he had to choose the rebellion 110% and why he hates the empire so much.
Something that I really, really want to get out of this show is some insight, maybe some storylines that follow some Imperial characters. For instance, not necessarily her specifically, but the stories we got with Arinda Price. Because
I knew you were going to say that.
Because they were so good, man.
I know, they are.
They're so good. She's like a spy, or she was a spy. She was an espionage agent, and so is he.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's some sort of like a white spy, or what is it, spy versus spy kind of. I mean, we don't want the slapstick comedy, but
hey,
you know what I mean.
I do.
Maybe we do. Maybe we do. But
I mean,
what if we get?
If Dick Van Dyke is going to be K2SO, we're going to get some of that.
You're absolutely
He
right.
might be blind at some point.
Yeah,
he's trying to walk
slipping
around
on marbles,
scaffolding.
walking on scaffolding. Somehow juggling plates. I don't know. But yeah, I think I want to see more of the gritty inside of the Empire as well.
Did you guys think you were going to get Mr. Magoo?
Mr. Magoo. Oh, I mean, Mr. Magoo is a man. Are you referencing to a slapstick
wasn't
comedy?
Dick Van Dyke
No,
played
not at all.
He played a blind character at one point.
A blind character?
Yeah.
Sure, but he wasn't Mr.
Boy.
This is insane. Mr. Magoo was never blind.
Oh no, I'm thinking of the exact wrong thing. Whatever.
Okay.
Naked Gun.
Oh,
which is very
still not
not knowing your surroundings and everything. And even in an airplane, it was very much like.
But that's
who
not
cares?
Dick Van Dyke.
It's not.
No, that's
Who
a
is
different guy.
Who is it then?
That's he's got a very unique name, but it's not Dick Van Dyke.
Oh no,
guy from Airplane. Just type in Airplane while I move on to our next segment.
Please do.
So, oh my goodness, the new a new preview for Thrawn Treason has been released from StarWars.com. This is actually being reported by Star Wars Underworld. Thank you very much, guys over there, our friends over there. But the excerpt can be read in full on StarWars.com, and it's a scene in which a few characters, some that we haven't met yet, and some that we haven't heard talk yet in those books, get together to discuss the thing that we've been coming to a tipping point on, and that is Thrawn's allegiance and the Death Star project, which wasn't called the Death Star yet at this point, but we'll get to it. Did you finally find out what a gentleman's name is?
Leslie Nielsen.
That's what it is.
I am so sorry to all the big Dick Van Dyke fans. I know you're all out there.
The big Dick Van Dyke fans, huh?
And all the Leslie Nielsen fans. I am so sorry.
Yeah, I'm glad you apologized.
The minute you said that, all of the features of Dick Van Dyke being an airplane, his face crumbled away and turned into Leslie Nielsen's face, and I was like, "You're so right. That's not him."
That's so funny. It's like he was wearing a dust mask and it fell away. That is terrifying.
He was like Dorian Gray looking at his portrait. Okay.
So, we would like to, now that we've cleared that up, and now that I've introduced this little segment, we extracted a portion of the extraction for your listening pleasure, as performed by Tyler and I. Well, I'm going to be doing the voices because I want to have fun.
I'm going to pull my most random house voiceover voice that I can.
This was brought to you by Random House Productions.
3 men are seated around a table in the Star Destroyer Fire Drake's command conference room. The room itself is a duplicate of the Chimera's conference room, though the Fire Drake's table and chairs are newer and somewhat more elaborate.
You, Governor, were the one who arranged this meeting. What precisely was your intent?
the Emperor said. Tarkin's eyes are steady, his face again holding triumph.
Director Krennic has suggested to Your Majesty that the funds earmarked for the TIE Defender program be transferred to Stardust. I propose that this delay in Stardust equipment shipments not only threatens the project timetable, but also squanders funds that could be and should be utilized elsewhere.
So you propose a trade?
The Emperor said. His voice holds anticipation.
I do, Your Majesty. I propose that if Admiral Thrawn is able to solve this problem and destroy the Gralix, the necessary funds be restored to his Defender program.
Director Krennic.
The Emperor invited. Krennic is silent a full second.
I would be willing.
He said at last. His face is under careful control. His eyes are wary, as if watching a stalking animal.
If Admiral Thrawn can destroy them within the next week. That's hardly fair.
Admiral Civet objects. His expression and face hold contempt.
As I said, Governor Havland has been dealing with these things for years. If Admiral Thrawn can't solve it in that time, he's of no use to us.
Krennic countered.
I would also, I dare say, bring his so-called problem-solving capabilities into serious question.
Admiral Mithron Yurodo.
The Emperor said.
I give you the decision.
I accept Governor Tarkin's proposal. I further accept Director Krennic's conditions.
Very well.
The Emperor said. The corners of his mouth turned up in a satisfied smile. This audio production was brought to you by Chatter Squadron.
Nice work, friend.
That
deserves a handshake indeed.
There's all the...
hey, hire us, Lucasfilm. Wait, it's not Lucasfilm, but they're not in charge.
That's all the drama classes coming out. Oh, finally, I can use these table reading skills.
All these characters we've done for however long.
I like this because it gives kind of a setup to what's going on in this novel, and kind of you get to see Thrawn play off of not only just Admiral Tarkin, but now Krennic as well, which is really interesting. I also love that
he's meeting Krennic. He meets this other Admiral Savitt. We have very few interactions with the Emperor. We just have the prologue to the second book to really have as reference. So I love this.
Yes, the prologue that's insanely necessary.
That's
to
definitely
the second book.
supposed to be chapter 1.
I just want to commend you on Krennic being just angry all the time.
He's just Admiral Thrawn. He's always talking through his teeth. He's just always mad.
We stand here in the cafeteria, and you won't give me these fish fingers. That's fish fing.
I imagine that's what he's saying in like a prison. He's just demanding things in prison.
We stand here in the midst of the warden, about to be sentenced to more time in this confinement. Dang it, Krennic.
Like, dude, you shut up. We're all in here. I mean, dude, we're all doing time.
Open your mouth more.
Yeah. Separate your damn teeth, Krennic.
All right, and let's end off the episode. I think that made me more excited for it, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If anything, I think this hints at going back to the tone of the first book.
Right. Let's end it with the Chosen One prophecy. It's been revealed in Master and Apprentice, which I still need to read. I still need to listen to it somehow.
There's a lot of content.
Yes.
There's a lot of... I mean, did you guys pay attention the episode where we listed all of the titles that are being published between now and
The Rise of
Skywalker?
It's like 20 plus titles.
It was over 20 titles. Some of them are comic books, sure. Mm-hmm. And that means some people won't read those. But there's specific ones that we really want to get into.
Right.
And Master and Apprentice is one of them. It's not a comic, but it is one of the pieces.
So in this novel, which follows Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi in their younger years before the Phantom Menace, apparently they reveal what the Chosen One prophecy actually is. Now, I don't think we have the book over here anymore, but we had the...
We do have a holocron.
We do have a holocron. It might be in the Jedi book.
Oh, go ahead.
Let me try and grab this. But back in the day, they put out this Jedi Path, and also, it's here. The Jedi Path, and also like a Sith book that had like everything you needed to know about the Sith and the Jedi, which it's really awesome. You get to learn so much. But in the book, which is a little silly, they have the Chosen One prophecy. And then someone has
redacted.
has crossed it all out.
Oh man!
And actually,
William Burr got to it again.
Which it makes me think is like, do they have Sharpies in Star Wars? Like, who's sitting there doing this?
Yeah. Why not just rip the page out?
But someone was able to actually like take the images and find the words underneath them, and they posted what it was. So they posted what this Chosen One prophecy was, and as I showed people, the visual people can see it, and you can probably find it online as well, or just watch the video. It's like 3 pages of a thing. What I'm about,
but it's not like really tiny script. It's supposed to be like, oh, it is.
Yeah,
it's like Times New Roman 12 size font. Interesting, but it is double spaced.
So it used to be there, and then someone decoded it, and it was online. But now,
up to the light,
we had to put lemon juice on it and over a candle.
You know what? What's really interesting is there are no really letters in this one in particular. That's funny.
Anyway, so in canon now we have what is the Chosen One prophecy. So here it is. Only through sacrifice of many Jedi will the Order cleanse the sin done to the nameless. The danger of the past is not past, but sleeps in an egg. When the egg cracks, it will threaten the galaxy entire. When the Force itself sickens, past and future must split and combine. A Chosen One shall come, born of no father, and through him will ultimate balance in the Force be restored. To me, that feels like something that we wrote as a joke.
It sounds like a cryptic poem.
Yes.
I mean, that is kind of what a prophecy is.
Right. Yes, it is. So here's a couple questions. Number 1, what the heck does this mean? Number 2, what egg? What's that talking about? 3, who is the nameless?
That's the number 1 question for me.
And 4, sin exists in Star Wars? Sin.
It's not capital S sin,
I
so
know.
I'll allow it.
I'll allow it. But yeah, okay. Let's start first with the egg.
How close is this to the Matrix?
I put a little something in there. I put a little something in there for Calhoun to enjoy.
How did I not see that upon the first reading?
The danger of the past is not past, but sleeps in an egg. When the egg cracks, it will threaten the galaxy entire. So, what does that mean? I really
to me,
can't-
that sounds like, okay, first of all, the danger of the past is not past, which means people that, if there's some sort of documented fear of the past, which would be the Sith, in my opinion, is not past, meaning the Sith threat is not over, but it could be something else. It sleeps in an egg, and when the egg cracks, it will threaten the entire galaxy. Maybe that meant the egg in question, or the danger of the past in question, being in an egg is like it's contained. It could be contained in a vessel, such as a person, perhaps,
or be contained in an idea, which is the rule of 2. I now that you're saying that, that's what I'm kind of surmising out of it is the danger of the past is not past, but sleeps in an egg. When the egg cracks, it will threaten the entire galaxy. When the egg cracks is the Phantom Menace, when the Sith finally revealed himself after 1,000 years of being in hiding.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? As they say in the Phantom Menace too, the Sith has been extinct for 1,000 years or 1,000 generations.
Sure.
So
Well, that's even longer.
To themselves, they think, well, the Sith is gone.
Yeah, it's not even a threat.
The danger of the past is not past, but sleeps in an egg. So I don't know how stupid the Jedi Council had to have been to read that and say, what, are they talking about a big chicken? Well, we don't have to worry about the Sith. They're dead, but, I mean, let's get some Jedi looking at giant bird planets. I don't know.
Yeah, let's monitor all the farms.
Yes, farms. Exact. That's a good point.
Certainly need to start with sickens. We need to start. Oh, the Force itself sickens. Well, we need to start investigating hospitals next.
Exactly.
And
Hospitals.
it does sound. Yeah, it's like just 5 minutes of. They had thousands of generations to interpret this. But this prophecy.
But that's something with this is they didn't say how long the prophecy's been around
You're right.
or any of that. So we don't know what it is.
Qui-Gon wrote it. He wrote it and then he tried to self-fulfill it.
So who is the Nameless? Our good friends at the Tatooine Sons, who another people who said very nice things about us recently. They said you're not a true Star Wars fan if you don't listen to.
Wait, hang on. What?
Chatter Squadron. That's a joke that they say all the time,
Thank
though.
goodness.
They poke fun at that phrase, but I mean it's true.
You know, you're not true. Sorry, you're right. They did pull that during our friendly interview.
But yeah, so but they said cleanse the sin done to the Nameless. David, the father over there, was kind of thinking that might be talking about the clones. The clone wars that happen. To cleanse the sin done to the Nameless, who are nameless, the clones. They don't have names. They have numbers. They give themselves names. But, so that is a possible thing. I
have an alternative, but tell me yours.
I also kind of think order cleanse the sin done to the Nameless. It's a possibility, and this is what I find the most messed up with the old Jedi Order, in the prequels, is taking children from their parents, and as is our child now, like the rifts that caused through all the families or whatever, and just in their pursuit to create the Jedi Order to fortify it, how much damage they did to families all around. So I don't. That's just what I kind of took. But like I said, that might be me internalizing one of my biggest complaints with the Jedi Order, which is just like, you know what, that's a pretty strong little Twi'lek you got there. We're just gonna take them. What?
In this, the Order is capitalized. Is that intended? Is that intentional?
I think it's the Jedi Order.
I see.
This was taken, I believe, straight from it. But yeah. Of many Jedi will the Order cleanse the sin. I think that might be talking about the Jedi Order.
I read that as only through the sacrifice of many Jedi will the Order cleanse the sin done to the Nameless. The Nameless could be the father, son, daughter, and mother. They don't have names. And the sin that was done to them was their death, was their murder, basically. The betrayal of the mother, the death, kind of accidental murder of the sister, and then the self-sacrifice of the father.
Right.
Those were kind of injustices. They could be considered sins because they were deaths or they were wrongful deaths. Maybe once that had occurred on Mortis, that was the sin that had been done, and now things have to reset. I don't know. But the other thing I was going to say with when the Force itself sickens, past, future must split and combine. That sounds like some prequel trilogy and sequel trilogy kind of stuff.
Yes.
I mean, it's cookie cutter.
It feels like it's pushing towards the sequel trilogy
Absolutely.
in a way. But as you were talking about that as well, because you were talking about Mortis, if people don't know, there's a